Green Bay travels to Chicago to once again fight for the divisional lead. Chicago currently has it, but if Green Bay wins, Green Bay takes it right back. Should be another highly contested game. We'll see how Green Bay fares without Micah Parsons. We'll see what Jordan Love can do in Chicago. But Chicago is favored by 1.5 in this edition of this matchup. Early in the season, they met, and Green Bay beat Chicago. So I'm interested to see what happens this time. Also to note, enjoy it while it lasts. Potentially Chicago, your team may be moving to North Indiana. So maybe trot on out to
This is true.
Soldier Field and revolt, or what's the word I'm looking for? Repent is in my head. It's in no way. It's not repent, obviously.
Protest.
Yeah, go get out there and protest, because I don't think you want your team to leave Chicago. But what are y'all's thoughts on this game?
Well, this game decides the division straight up. If it doesn't matter who wins this game in terms of the tiebreakers and whatnot. If Chicago wins, they can lose another game and Green Bay win out and still make the playoffs and win the NFC North, even with losing to Detroit in the final week of the year. If Green Bay were to win this game, they would win the division straight up. Now, they would also be... They would not be allowed, not allowed to win out. So not allowed to lose another game and still win the division. All that being said, this decides the division, essentially straight up. Who wins it in terms of the NFC North. Detroit has a really outside chance of doing it. Green Bay and Chicago are going to have to lose much of... I'm pretty sure Green Bay would have to lose out, and Chicago would have to lose... or Chicago would have to lose there too, and Green Bay win only this game. Really confusing. I've been tracking it a ton. Your Chargers are still in line for the 1 seed, Sanders. Jacksonville's in line for the 1 seed. And the San Francisco 49ers, if Seattle wins tonight, are in line for the 1 seed in the NFC. So there's a lot to still be decided. I really want to see the dynamics of Green Bay, and that's what everyone wants to see. How do they respond to the loss of Micah Parsons? How do they respond defensively against Chicago? This is going to be a much more fair weather game than the last one. We're talking about 35 degrees, and now technically the sun would be out. There's no clouds. It's at night. It's a night kickoff on Saturday. It'll get cold throughout the second half, but it's still going to be better weather than the first game at Lambeau, which kicked off at 4:20 Eastern time. How does Green Bay respond to the loss of Micah Parsons is what everyone wants to see. And the biggest storyline for Green Bay going forward is how far can Jordan Love take them? I think Chicago is going to respond really well. They already did that last week after their loss to the Green Bay Packers and blowing out Cleveland. A week where people were saying, hey, Cleveland might have a chance in this game. Maybe Shedeur Sanders outplays Caleb Williams. That didn't happen at all. Chicago continued to do what they've been doing all season, which is force turnovers. Cleveland turned it over 3 times against Chicago. Jordan Love cannot have... He can no longer afford... He doesn't turn the ball over a ton, but he can no longer afford to have 2 turnovers and Green Bay still be in the game because they're going to lose that defensive edge with Micah Parsons. That's probably 4 to 5 points worth. And so Jordan Love can't afford to turn it over 2 times. He's got to protect the football more. He's got to throw on platform more. And although he's been excellent throwing off his back foot all year, a lot of his turnovers are because he's throwing off his back foot. I said this 2 weeks ago. Jordan Love is... I got this from online, but Jordan Love is one of those quarterbacks that he doesn't throw a lot of picks, but the picks he throws is one of the worst interceptions you've ever seen. He can't have those in Chicago at night in Soldier Field.
Tough pass too, because Chicago, they're hawks back there.
They have a lot of guys that can turn the ball over. They're supposed to get Jalen Johnson back as well, which is their best corner, Chicago. On the other hand, Green Bay is actually going to have Christian Watson. He's supposed to play on Saturday night, which is huge after the shoulder injury he suffered in Denver. And it felt like everyone was going down for Green Bay. At least they're getting what is inarguably their best offensive weapon. Jane Reed is another game healthier, and he looks to be a potential huge weapon for them down the stretch. They've got to, I think, turn to outscoring teams as opposed to just out defending teams like they have all year. And that'll be the key to the game. And notice how I talked about Green Bay for 3 minutes there. It's crazy how much the narrative has switched on Chicago, where they don't feel like the unknown. They feel like the known right now. With
Yep.
it, they know, we know they're going to want to run the football, and they're going to run the football well. We know Caleb is going to have an inefficient day, but he's going to wow you with about 5 to 6 throws and make some critical throws. And last week he had that against Cleveland where he throws it literally through like 4 defenders in the end zone and they somehow catch a touchdown. He'll have, I think, those throws again. And it's crazy how quickly it's flipped into now Chicago is the team that's known and Green Bay isn't.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I will say, while Chicago is known, and I think they feel pretty confident in their identity, this is still pressure that they've not necessarily felt as an organization in a couple years. You're currently leading the 1 seed, but you could lose it just like that. The Packers have already beat you this year. The Packers are kind of in wounded animal mode after a loss and losing Micah Parsons. So, kind of, how do you handle that pressure? Because you're playing well. So you should be able to go out there and handle business in a sense. You may not win, but go play your game. But say the first couple drives they don't run the ball well. I trust Ben Johnson, but can the rest of the gang kind of stay on the boat and not start pressing and then start making mistakes from there? I'm curious to see how that dynamic goes because from that standpoint, the Packers are a lot more well versed in pressure situations and division races and playoff type games, stuff like that. It matters a lot. Anything else to add, or
Couple,
shall we pick this game? Go ahead.
yeah, a couple storylines to watch. Caleb Williams is now on pace for 3,825 passing yards. He's got to tick that up a little for Chicago to have their first 4,000-yard passer ever. And like I said, if Chicago were to win this game and then go win next week and in San Francisco and Baltimore wins in Lambeau, then Chicago um, would still not lock up the division. So like they have to win 3 games straight. They got to treat this like this is a huge, huge game. And of the games that are left, this one feels like the first step in terms of okay, we can win the division. This will be their toughest game left. They play at San Francisco and they still host Detroit in Week 18. It's
Yeah.
3 massive games for Chicago. And I think Jack makes a great point in terms of how does that pressure loom on them because Green Bay, it almost feels like they could play with house money, even with the loss of Micah Parsons. But we can get into picking it.
Hold up, just quick. So clarification: you said that this game decides the division, but the winner of this game could still lose the division.
Yeah, um, the winner of this game will essentially decide the division. But they could, of course, lose their final 2 weeks and not win the division. But I don't expect them to.
Yeah.
At this point, I think they're going to be favored in San Francisco next week, Chicago that is, and they're going to be favored against Detroit at home in the final week. Green Bay is going to be favored against the Ravens and the Vikings, of course, in the final week of the season. It's the huge swing right here because Green Bay right now doesn't own the division lead and they can flip it right back to their own like they did a week ago.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of critical games left in this division, but I think it's of the games that are left the most critical.
Yeah. So the winner of this game controls their own fate, whereas the loser is going to rely on some underdogs winning. So that makes a lot of sense. I was just like, I thought I heard you say it was going to decide the division, but then
I mean, it's not think of like whoever wins this clinches or anything like that.
Last year.
Yeah, it's not a hat.
Yeah, with the Wait, what?
It's not a hat and T-shirt game, which is what they call it when you get your divisional hat and
not like
T-shirt.
last year's Vikings-Lions games. But the winner of this game will control their own destiny. If you win this game and you win out, you win the division. So that makes a lot more sense. Yeah, I'm down to go ahead and get into picking.
I think JP's first.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because we were tied, or excuse me, I was behind and we are now tied, and so JP will kick us off.
Yeah, so the pyramid and the totem pole, who we have
So
not
I think
mentioned so far today. Go ahead.
it's irrelevant this one. Just I think the graphic's technically wrong. It says Green Bay by 1.5. Isn't Chicago favored? Or am I just making that up?
No, Green Bay is favored by 1.5.
I apologize. My notes are wrong. I think I said Chicago
But that is
in the opening. It's an
that's
aside.
a great point because the pyramid and the totem pole think the wrong team is favored.
I think that's where my mind was. That's why I got confused.
Yeah, I mean the pyramid of the totem pole really should be where the books go and not
100%.
Vegas. Given how they have produced so far this season, my pyramid has Chicago favored by half of a point. Jack's pyramid, or Jack's totem pole, I should say, has Chicago favored by 4.5. And so this would be one of Jack's best bets this week through the totem pole. It's a 6-point spread. It's not the biggest spread difference. It'll be in another game we talk about in just a second. But it is one of the biggest, and it would be one of Jack's best bets this week. I'm going to lean towards Chicago. I think they have the most proven here. I'm going to lean towards the pyramid and totem pole as well. Like I said, it's crazy for me that they have become what is more known. I know what I'm going to get from them, and I don't necessarily know what I'm going to get from the Packers this Saturday night. So I'm going to take Chicago to win that game in Soldier Field. I think they're going to have a ton to play for. I think it's going to be just as rowdy of a home environment like it was in Lambeau 2 weeks ago, and I think that will be the end up being the factor in this game that decides it. A Jordan Love interception in the second half. Give me Chicago.
What do we got, Sanders?
I'm also going to go Chicago. We
know you're a Green Bay hater, so
yeah, well, that's exactly what I was about to
surprising.
say. Is I was low on Green Bay coming into the season, low on Jordan Love. Didn't like the Matthew Golden draft pick. I still don't think he's had 100 yards receiving unless he had it.
He had one of his best games of the season.
Did he?
In
Okay.
Denver,
Let
which
me-
it
let
was
me-
3
let me
receptions
fact
for
check that.
55 yards.
Oh, 55 yards. Okay, never mind.
Yeah, but that's one of his best games of the season. We got baby steps here. Baby steps.
That's really good for him, but he is still short of that 100-yard game as a first-round draft pick. I'll be interested to see 341 yards. I may have to go back and look at other first-round draft picks to see where he's going to finish relative to other guys that have had that kind of draft capital invested. Didn't like, or was low on Jordan Love coming into the season. Didn't like the Matthew Golden pick, and now they lose Micah Parsons. I just feel like everything is kind of going against Green Bay right now, and that's not to say that they won't overcome this, but I'm not going to bet on them to overcome this right now. So I'm going to pick Chicago to cover and to win. And I get to bet with the pyramid and the totem pole. That's a plus.
Yeah, I was personally pretty undecided on this game. I was leaning Chicago, and then to hear our power, our models had set up for us. I have no reason not to take Chicago here. The Parsons injury sucks, in the sense of it finally felt like Green Bay was right back in the groove, and I could trust them fully again. And now you lose your best defensive player, and so now I'm kind of back in the I need you to prove something to me. And so I'm gonna take Chicago. It's kind of crazy that I trust them a little more right now.
I think it's
but especially
so
being
funny.
at home, I do.
I think it's so funny that you say you were like, oh, I don't know which way to go, and yet you have Chicago power ranked like 4-6 spots ahead of Green Bay?
Well, that's kind of what I'm saying is JP reminding me what I had previously put down in writing and thought about. Kind of reinforces my own already lean. It's like an internal reinforcement, which is terrible, honestly. That feels really bad, but it keeps me from picking the moment. I think the reason I'm still teetering is because this is Green Bay versus Chicago. In a lot of ways, this is Green Bay beats Chicago. And so even if I feel better about Chicago right now, do I want to kind of go up against the trend of even though a lot of it was Aaron Rodgers, hey, this is kind of a matchup Green Bay has their thumb on the pulse of, and they love to win. But I'll go with the totem pole. Give me the Bears.